In the Amazon, the last call.
A las afueras de la ciudad de Belén, aquí en la copa de los árboles,
on the outskirts of the city of Belén, it's hot up here on the treetops. There are a lot of insects and things are going on. Incredible things searched for by incredible people. My friend João Batista, for example, a 56-year-old man who climbs trees. There are many men and women like him here in the Amazonia that struggle to protect it and to get to know it. From an ecological point of view, it is always said that the Amazonia is a threatened territory. Today, we are going to meet the people that know all about this, and who, like João Batista, sometimes even risk their lives to know better the Amazon secrets.
I was studying law and human science and had a bureaucratic employment. On my first trip, I suddenly found an orchid on a tree and became fascinated. I cut the flower and brought it home with me. It had a sweet scent of cinnamon and a beautiful color to it, shiny. It was a Cattleya nobilium. And when I discovered that it was an orchid, I didn't even know that these flowers existed. From that moment on, I decided that I would change my life and abandon my bureaucratic job on the first opportunity that I got. And on the second opportunity, I left the university and moved directly towards the countryside, which was the only place where I would be able to appease my curiosity and do exactly what I wanted to do. Discover the plant life, discover the orchids. I would need more than one life, or perhaps 10 lives, to travel through this whole territory, which is the Brazilian Amazonia, and discover the enormous amount of species that are unknown to me. What can I do? Return for a second life? Well, if that were possible, I'm ready.
For the time being, the eminent botanist João Batista, a hunter of pretty flowers, as he calls himself, has gotten the best out of his 30 years of dedication. The most curious and unknown Amazon flowers have names thanks to him, like this Placiele ovalifolia, a minute orchid, possibly the smallest flowered plant in the world. We are the first to see his latest discovery, which he proudly shows us.
I would like to show you my latest discovery. Let's say she's my youngest daughter. I discovered it in Santarém, a municipality of the Amazon River. Plants, like people, have to be registered on a listing. They need a name, and that is precisely what I am doing with this one. I am signing her name in the General Botanic Register by the name of Galeandra santarena, as a tribute to the city of Santarém, the surroundings of which is where I found it. It is a beautiful, beautiful orchid species because of its color that is different from the rest of the species, which have a duller tone.
When this passionate, self-taught man began his interest in orchids, the Brazilian Amazonia had less than 400 species registered. Today, thanks to his knowledge, the number is much larger, and we can now talk of 740 species that have been studied and classified. There are orchids all over the world except for the Antarctic. Nonetheless, we can find these flowers living in the icelands of the North Pole, or in the dry sands of the Sahara Desert, or in Spain or Japan. This botanical family, which Confucius called the plants of the gods, is the most numerous and also has a sophisticated sexuality. Vegetable intelligence, perhaps.
The pollinator of this plant is a solitary bumblebee of the Ulema genre. The pollinization process that it carries out is very sophisticated. In order to settle here on the labello, attracted by the scent of the plant, it will have to brush against this string. This antenna, which functions as a catapult, launching the pollen capsule that will stick to the insect's back. When I touched the antenna, the visidium spurted out. This is the device that the masculine flowers have, and have a protective shield that will later fall away with just the two pollen compartments remaining stuck together. These are the reproductive organs of the orchids. The masculine organs will be carried to the feminine organ in the other flower by the bumblebee. See this natural glue, which enables this sexual device to become fixed on the insect's body. By the time it dries, the bumblebee will have had time to travel to another orchid and deposit it there, in this way guaranteeing the fertilization of the flower.
This eminent botanist, whose inspiring hero he has confessed to us is Dr. Livingstone, works with another person who is madly in love with these plants of such strange beauty, the Japanese botanist Yasunao Sakada. Together, without any official backing and with the money that comes out of their own pockets, they keep this botanical garden Belém de Pará, where they carry out their passionate investigations, hoping to achieve a greater amount of protection to the scarcest of flora.
Look at this. Here are a lot of dead insects.
Besides studying North American and Asian species, this Japanese botanist settled in Brazil for a number of years and also studies some genuses that are endemic to the Brazilian Amazon jungle, such as this one, the Drosera genus, from Pico da Neblina. There are approximately 20,000 orchid species on the entire planet. In the Amazon region, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela head the list of countries that have the widest variety. Joao's investigations not only take place on Brazilian territory. Our man has also been in those countries. Each and every one of these colorful flowers form a part of a healthy but delicate mosaic. The Amazonia would lose a great deal without them, and its loss would sooner or later be ours. Joao is not the only guardian of this future, but is without a doubt a botanist ahead of his time, who, as he says, could do with a reincarnation in order to continue dedicating himself in body and soul to the understanding of these living beings. The first thing one learns in order to be able to develop any kind of scientific work in the Amazonia is this. The Amazonia sets the pace and decides when and where. Reaching the heart of the Amazonia is a complicated task. For João Batista's Technicolor orchids to grow, this monochromatic tapestry has to be alive. The full scale of green is the dominating color in this primary jungle of Tapajós. One of the most important scientific investigations of the 20th and 21st centuries is taking place here. Important institutions such as NASA have invested money and brainwork over a number of years in the attempt to learn once and for all, using this corner of the world as a model, how the rainforest works. Trees are live terminals here, connected to a central computer that registers their biorhythms every half hour. They communicate this way with scientists, telling them what their needs and problems are. This international project is carried out in one portion of 2 hectares of jungle. One remains untouched, while the other is totally isolated by way of 6,000 plastic panels with the intention of artificially reproducing an environment of extreme drought, similar to that caused by the climatic phenomenon known as the Niño. Not a drop of water will reach the ground. All of the technology used by the scientists in the LBA project works on solar energy, as does the rainforest they are studying. Biologists, chemists, physicists, and meteorologists all analyze the data that is registered in this distant Amazon enclave, fully aware of the fact that their conclusions affect us all. They have been preparing this open-air laboratory for 3 years, and now over 200 people will be working here during another 5 years. The LBA project meticulously studies the growth of the trees, investigating these giants' every minute gesture because of its self-sufficient physiology. Everything, as if the jungle were one great organism, as if it were a human body. The rain that falls upon the treetops is not exceedingly nutritious, and only when captured by the Amazon canopy leaves that are used as an infinite digestive system and elaborated by photosynthesis or the decomposition of the dead leaves, after this process, it will finally reach the ground converted into nutritious food. The tree leaves here are palate, stomach, and intestine, and by way of these, water becomes vegetable matter. Three 12-meter deep wells have been dug into the hectare that has been isolated from the rain by way of drainage systems to find out what trees survive on when submitted to this hydric stress. Scientists have also installed sensors deep into their roots so they can observe the behavior under periods of extreme drought, such as that produced by the global warming from the greenhouse effect. Obeying a natural cycle, the dry season lasts from May through September, the period in which there is very little rain. Over the past 10 years, this season is extending itself thanks to mankind's intervention with fires and chainsaws. Without a forest, there is no rain, and without rain, there will be no forest, a closed and cruel cycle which affects the world climate. And the effort from here is to get precise information.
So that we can understand the effects that the Amazonia has on the global climate, imagine that we throw a stone into a pond, and immediately after that, waves spread out. The Amazonia has that same effect by way of the clouds. The rain in Amazonia is so concentrated, so powerful and deep, that it is as if we threw a stone into the atmosphere, and from there millions of waves spread throughout the globe. Whether it rains more or less can affect winter in Europe, or the monsoon in China. Therefore, if we deforest the jungle, we will be affecting the rain cycle and will undoubtedly be inciting an environmental catastrophe of global proportions.
This is perhaps the only place in the world where it rains to everyone's liking. The rain that falls upon our European cities was also manufactured in this green factory. When the Amazonia breathes, Its humid breath refreshes us all. In the third millennium, mankind will have to learn how to interpret the messages derived from the conversation between jungle and atmosphere with all the technological advances they have at hand. The climatic changes may very well have their origin in the systematic destruction of the jungles, and the solution is its firm conservation. The carbon dioxide produced by the greenhouse effect is absorbed and assimilated by its leaves.
My co-worker is measuring the photosynthesis. And what is photosynthesis? On the tree leaves, we find a green-colored matter that covers them, the substance of which is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll captures the CO2 from the air and constructs a tissue similar to cellulose and many others that form the plant. To measure all of this, we use an instrument and we introduce a leaf. This machine measures the percentage of CO2 that is circulating inside the leaf. And that way, we know how much of the carbon that is in the atmosphere is being captured by a tree like this one.
Many young people are involved in the defense of what is the largest rainforest on the planet. They work on this project that is financed by the European Union and the government of Brazil. NASA, with all its high technology, is not looking for alien life here. It proves with an investment of over 10,000 million pesetas that what happens here in the Amazonia will have incalculable consequences for all the countries, for all the inhabitants of the planet. Up until now, the saying that the Amazonia was the lungs of the world was a cliché. But the moment the conclusions of this mammoth investigation are published, those who govern the lives and futures of the over 6,000 million living beings that inhabit this planet will have to commit themselves to preserving this mechanism well-oiled for all our sakes.
¿Qué es esto? ¿Cómo? ¿Tartarugas? ¿Son fillotes? ¿Son crías?
Gaspar, what is this?
These are baby tortoise of the Podocnemis expansa species, the largest sweetwater tortoise in the world.
I would like you to meet my friend Gaspar. I want you to get a good look at him. We can't see his face with the cap on. This man fills humanity, big, physically and humanely, along with his son Bruno and his co-workers. He's dedicated all his life to defending the Amazon rivers. It's not by chance that you observe all this nature everywhere. All this future here in the Das Mortes River, an unusual name for a river full of life. Sensitivity and scientific rigor is the vital combination that our following guardian of the future and his team use to keep the Amazon rivers alive. Gaspar, like our orchid admirer, is also self-taught. He didn't go to college, but his experience in hard fieldwork make him a professor in fluvial environment, one of the best. Throughout his life, he has seen the population of the Amazon turtle descend in different rivers. Over the last few years, he has been restoring the lost balance, enclosing the breeding areas that are more vulnerable. The turtle doesn't know it, but this is a good man, their most efficient life insurance for their threatened populations. Before Gaspar arrives on this inhospitable beach full of good intentions, this fertile female will have been here at the light of the moon. It will lay its eggs on the riverbank, and after having buried them, will go back into the night. Months later, that same beach will see the dawn ironclad and protected by the militant green movement of Gaspar and his men. There will no longer be adult specimens, but from the beach sands, the fruit of a seed well set will spring forth, not without enemies. Each female can lay up to 150 eggs, but nature's mathematical logic will hopelessly divide this number by 10. Of each laying, only 15 little turtles will survive their first hours of life. The caracara and the urubus have been waiting at the door of this nursery for river turtle for a week. They have chicks in their nests that are waiting to be fed, and there is a lot of food on the white sands of this beach. A lot of food. These predators form a part of the complicated crossword puzzle into which these turtles have come into the world. And their hunt is in itself part of the ecological balance that suits us all. But in this region, man entered the scene a number of years ago, taking 58 million eggs away in one sweep. Gaspar's watch has put an end to the greed of those people.
There were a lot of tortoise hunters in the old days, but this activity has stopped since we're here. The traders respect our work and no longer come around. Not too long ago, they would come and take thousands of tortoise, take the eggs to make a fat out of it and sell it in Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. It was used in cosmetics. Our work takes place on 6 beaches. Now that they feel safer, the tortoise that disappeared years ago are coming back. And it's great satisfaction to see them breed on these beaches year after year.
What this man avoids telling us is the difficult fight he has had with the turtle egg dealers. Today, with victory on his side, he prefers to enjoy the sight of the small turtles on Das Mortes River. Just like heroic sperm, this young turtle becomes one with the refreshing flow, as if it were an ovum. From this moment on, Gaspar's work is over. Life goes on by itself, reproducing and renovating itself each year. Without any economic assistance from the government, this administrative employer manages each year during his vacation period to set up an operative system in which 10 men are involved. They repopulate stretches of the river that have been tithed in the past with young Amazon turtles in a hard job for which they receive no wage whatsoever. They work because of their love for life, their love for the river, with the only objective of assuring a site like this one for their children, when they themselves are no longer here.
On a general basis, people don't know what we're losing. Many of the things we see today, we won't see them tomorrow. Our children and grandchildren won't have the opportunity to see them. And that's what we're here fighting for, and we're making sure that everybody understands that this has to be a shared responsibility, so uncontaminated nature can be enjoyed by my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and the children of their children.
Are you saying that when you're no longer in the world, he will be a turtle guardian?
Yes, I sincerely hope so. Right, darling?
The same rain that in the previous story worried the brainy NASA scientists sprinkles Gaspar's hope. The water cycle is closed, just and necessary, an essential element for the glow of the orchids and the heartbeat of the turtle. After a few years, the young turtles born under the careful watch of this nature lover will grow until they reach a shell size of 1 meter long. They will be Amazon turtles. Podocnemis expansa, the largest turtle on the planet. A miracle to which this great man, Gaspar, has contributed. Weighing half a ton, the manatee sticks its nose into our program. In the Amazonia, this kind and timid animal is known as the peixe boi, that is, the fish cow, the largest herbivorous mammal that swims in these waters. A creature full of secrets, secrets which science intends to disclose before the animal is extinguished. The manatee is a corpulent animal 3 meters long, totally harmless to man. Its story is similar to that of the whale. Its size has been of no use to it, for it has been cruelly hunted down. It was hunted by the thousands for its meat and fat, and today, the peixe boi is a true fugitive in its own home. Here in the installations of the INPA in Manaus, they are bred in captivity. For some Amazon populations, that's their only salvation. A new specimen has arrived today, injured by a hunting party. The biologists of INPA have to identify it genetically. Thanks to the study of its DNA, they will soon find out if it is a manatee that can be crossbred with the others that already exist in the center for future reintegration in their natural habitat. The newly arrived manatee is a female that had surely been separated from its child. This queen of the river's defensive tactics proved to be of no avail.
The manatee has an underwater diving strategy, which we call bronchocardio diving, and consists in reducing the cardio frequency when it dives, blocking the peripheral circulation, maintaining only the brain, heart, and lung circulation. It has no natural predators, save for man, and has an acute sense of hearing as its only defense weapon. The manatee perceives sound and movement beforehand, and therefore has time to hide. By remaining still in the bottom, it can avoid being attacked by its only mortal enemy, man.
Dr. José Alves Gomes works with gloves to avoid electrocution. He has just captured a puraque, an electric power plant of the Amazons. This neighbor of the manatee defends itself better from man than the harmless peixe boi. Its Latin name tells it all, Electrophorus electricus. With just this size, this specimen can give electric discharges strong enough to light 5 100-watt light bulbs. A machine capable of administering 5,000 of those electric discharges in just 1 minute, causing the death of its prey. A larger specimen, for example 2.5 meters long, generates 1,000 watts. High tension in the river. The electric material that covers its backbone inspired the inventors of the voltaic batteries. This Salakoff with underwater microphones, loudspeakers, and recorder is part of the doctor's material. With it, the doctor studies this group of animals, almost unknown, without having to see it. After his expeditions in the laboratory, this young investigator, the only one that studies the matter, analyzes the river's more timid inhabitants, reaching conclusions that are to the interest of human beings concerning the levels of contamination of these waters. Unlike the enormous puraque, the sarapos are less feared, although just as electrifying and magical. These fish use their energy to communicate with each other, love, and defend themselves. Their lives are pure shocks, and now we can see and hear them.
We're trying to establish how the change in water quality in terms of the contamination it receives affects the electrical discharges that these fish give out. And with this data, we try to establish a pattern of discharges in good water and observe the changes that these electrical discharges undergo when the water is contaminated with different substances. We test the waters with heavy metals, hydrocarbons, and even with domestic garbage to identify the different frequencies that the electrical discharges of these small fish have.
Over 130 species of sarapos in the Amazonia behave as bioindicators. They help us with their anatomy. We continue our journey and are in the northeastern part of the Amazonia, in Brazil, but only 300 kilometers from the Venezuelan border. We trample the foothills of this flowery mountainside, the Cerro do Padre, with our boots and the tripods of our camera, waiting for night to come, and with it, its inhabitants. An hour after sundown, a flower hangs down, giving our monitor a fuchsia color, filling with evocative aromas the noses of those that now awaken. Yes, they're bats, and they're licking their lips. The flowers and they are made for each other. If the flower seems strange to us, the behavior of these tropical bats is ever more so. Their noses tell them that the pistils are full of nectar, so it will be better not to dally, just in case somebody else gets there first. The attack of various bats of the Glossophaga soricina species plucks this flower full of sugars clean. It's the sexual organ of a tree with an unimpressive name, the castaña de gallina, or chicken chestnut. And this episode is taking place 20 meters above the ground, at the top of the Amazon canopy of the unexplored Cerro do Padre. These small tightrope elves feed off nectar, that is to say, a most peculiar group of bats that feed exclusively off particular flowers. As is the case of many butterflies, their existence depends solely on a particular plant species. If the castaña de gallina disappears, so will this tribe of sweet-toothed mammals. A perfect symbiosis in which a number of nature lovers have taken an interest over the past few years. Dr. Rogério Gribel is not Batman, nor does he drive a Batmobile, but his life revolves around his friends, the bats of the Amazons. He's a prestigious zoologist from the National Institute of Amazonian Research. His co-worker in studies is Aldenora, a mother who includes these little animals in her family, something her little son doesn't quite seem to understand. Together, they prepare to steal a few secrets from the night in their attempt to defend, from a position of scientific understanding, a zoological group that is totally unknown and yet fundamental to the Amazon ecosystem. Over a period of 15 years, their talent and sensitivity has gotten them closer to the unknown world of bats, exploring the Amazon basin with the main purpose of making inventory of their populations and studying their role in the framework of this enchanted forest. They know where to look for them in spite of being invisible, and where to extend the nets for a temporary capture. Rogerio and Aldenora are a luxurious scientific couple for this luxurious place.
I have been working for the past 15 years in the Amazon region, with interactions between mammals and plants, especially bats and plants. And during this time I have worked closely with my assistant in field and laboratory work. Aldemora is a self-taught woman with a special knack for natural history, for understanding the ways not only of animals, but of flowers and fruits also, and especially of the relationships between the one and the other. It is a great satisfaction for me to have been able to work with her for so many years. She's a person that I trust, and we sometimes comment on the interesting interaction that exists between the animals and plants, and how it also exists between us. I mean, on a personal and a professional level as well.
Não fique nervosa.
Night soon lets itself be caressed, because bats and the night are the same thing. Aldenora and Rogerio are respectful in their work with these newcomers. They know that each specimen should only remain the amount of time necessary for their identification and biometric measurements. The fright these free spirits receive is such that they could suffer a heart attack due to the stressful and unexpected situation. The methodology used takes this into consideration and gives prompt results. This little imp will be free again in a matter of minutes, and its friends all the smarter in matters of flying mammals. Aldenora recognizes that her work beside the doctor all these years has opened her eyes as far as these animals are concerned, about which she had heard so many horrible stories.
I didn't know this animal existed when I was a child. When I lived in the inlands, I couldn't imagine that an animal like this existed. I discovered the bats when I began to work with Rogerio. People in general are convinced that all bats are blood-drinking animals. When people see a bat close by, they generally want to kill it and run inside the house, closing the doors immediately, because they think the bat is going to suck their blood. That's not true. I would think that way myself if I didn't know this animal, but I do know it, and I know that it won't attack anyone. It feeds on fruit, on insects, and that's why it's good for the house. Believe me, it won't bite anyone.
Precisely, some bats in the Amazonia are frugarivorous. They only eat fruit. We have filmed them upside down, eating the fruit of a ficus tree, as you can see for yourselves. Thanks to their sense of smell, they know when the fruit is ripe. The tree helps them by giving off a specific perfume when the time is right. The woodland needs them because, in exchange for a delicious meal, these animals will let the open seeds fall to the ground or digest it in its excrements. You feed me, I'll carry you. That is the firm agreement that these two thriving families have reached. Other species are more sybaritic. They feed by drinking out of this immaculate cup, the corolla of the flower that is found in the palo de balsa tree. An intoxicating nectar is concentrated there that drives the Artibeus lituratus mad, a large-sized bat that takes advantage of these flowers only at night. "45 million years have been needed for this show to go on. It looks like science fiction, but it's not. This is the way Mother Nature is, and our ignorance makes it even more surprising." Rogério himself refuses to answer a numerical question. How many different bat species can be found in the Amazon jungle? Modern science assures that the figure is approximately 140, but he is convinced that there are many more, although we may never get to know the exact number. The bats are once again attracted by the nectar, in this case an amount not easily spurned of 2,000 liters per tree. But the heart of the matter is that they are unknowingly being used by the plants as exchangers of pollen, a guarantee for the health and genetic variety of the jungles.
Bats are the pollinizers of various types of trees and are also the scatterers of seeds for a large amount of Amazonic jungle vegetable species. These processes are very important because when they carry the pollen on their fur, they are transporting the plant's sexual organs, either in their mouths or in the digestive tube, and excrete a long distance away from the mother plant. This way they are promoting a valuable genetic flow, scattering these trees' offspring.
These two human beings, aside from carrying out a disciplined and efficient task, humanize science with their care for a land so often mistreated. Rogério and Aldenora form a part of the scarce clan of people who enjoy their work. The jungle is safe with them, and the old Amazon is understood inside and outside of its frontiers. We follow the night stream, motorized and out in the open air, plowing through a road in which, throughout its 147 kilometers, there are 126 bridges, a world record. As do the oil lamps, thousands of eyes follow our steps. Impassive animals contemplate us from the water. They're not in a hurry. We are. We have an appointment to keep. This is our hostess, Dr. Zilka Campos, a habitual investigator of the Amazonic fauna, who is now developing her fieldwork in the Mato Grosso. right in the center of the Pantanal. And here is where we have come to find out if what is said about her is true. We have been told that she leads a group of men and that her favorite animal is one of unpredictable reactions. Zilka has been risking her life these past 13 years for an unalterable nature. At the end of the afternoon, all possible doubts begin to fade away, and the fauna that is being studied by Dr. Campos lets itself be seen. She has been among the jacarés for 13 years, and this is not a figure of speech, because her work is not about mere observations from afar with binoculars. Zilka has to capture them one by one and in the wild, to proceed to identify them and analyze certain unknown aspects of their biology, body-to-body science. Bloodier tactics were used during the 20th century to capture the jacaré along this rosary of lagoons. Today, the doctor and her collaborators avoid bloodshed. The ammunition used against these prehistoric animals is just a series of small starts. Besides jacarés, these waters are also full of piranhas, a voracious little fish. Zilka must not let herself be tempted, because a bath here is not exactly medicinal. Little by little, the marsh loses its jacarés. Therefore, the results of the expedition are a total success. After all the hard work and back on land, each individual will be examined, and above all, the close relationship that exists between these animals and their environment. There are 6 species of crocodiles in Brazil, of the 22 that exist in the world. For a number of years, Zilka has been establishing acceptable scientific parameters for the authorities for a real conservation of this species, the Pantanal jacaré.
We are developing a study on thermoregulated behavior. The jacaré is an exothermic animal, and its corporal temperature works in relation to environmental variations. If it sunbathes, it will be warmer. And if it takes a swim, its body will assimilate the water temperature. Let's see if the environmental conditions coincide with the animal's corporal temperature. Let's take a reading. The temperature in the water is 31.9 degrees.
The doctor is teaching her co-workers everything about the jacaré myth, even how to distinguish its genitals. This one is a male.
Para você saber se é macho ou fêmea, você precisa colocar o dedo aqui e tirar o macho, o pênis, né?
This small woman has undoubtedly won the respect of her co-workers, José Augusto, Bandier, and Barriga. She's a strong and responsible woman.
Yes, she puts a great amount of willpower into her work.
But she's not very tall.
Yes, that's true, but she has the breed.
A lot of good traits.
What are some of her traits?
She's very brave and is courageous enough to walk around by herself at night and stays far away from home observing the jacares. 6 or 7 kilometers away, and we respect her a lot.
There you go. The same respect that I have for them.
We owe her a deep understanding of these animals. She has also taught us how to work with the jacares without running too many risks, with precaution and attention, because our work is dangerous and an accident can occur. But it's different with her, thank God. Everything is going well.
Humanism in the heart of nature. Defenders of animal rationale, or not. In today's program, we once again find a team on good terms. The jacares are more active during the night, and so is this group of researchers. We have to keep up with them, and the insects keep up with us. Our director of photography, Lati Maranya, is aware of the importance that lighting has in our work. Things have to be illuminated, there's no choice, and millions of insects also want to come out on television. The day's work of the members of the Jacare project Embrapa has been interrupted. From nightfall to daybreak, at least 50 jacares will have been captured. Many are adults that accompany their offspring. This species remains with their offspring during almost a year. These are behaving in a particularly aggressive manner, and it would be best to disarm them immediately. Besides, flies don't get into sealed mouths, an important issue in today's program. Dr. Zilka Campus's most important discovery after nights like these is that the temperature that affects the jacare eggs after an incubation period of 60 days will determine the genitals of the newborn. This is how important environmental factors are upon the lives of these animals, and a climatic catastrophe such as the greenhouse effect could unbalance the population scales of these reptiles. No one can be done without in this scheme of things. Not even these disgusting insects that repel us so. These jacares have Zilka. The turtles have Gaspar. The bats have Rogerio and Aldenora. The rivers and manatees have the zoologists of Manaus. The orchids have João Batista. And even the jungle's atmosphere is being observed by NASA as if it were a shiny, fine gem. It's a fact that the Amazonia is threatened, and that thousands of people are watching out for its health with absolute scientific rigor is also an important fact. We still have time. Let's regain the road of hope. Pantanal, a disturbing name for a distant geography. That is the title of our next program. We're going to visit the largest wetlands of the planet to live life as usual. Few are the places that say so much in such a short amount of time. An hour of television to listen to a message from the wild. Our next meeting will take place under wide horizons and profound contexts. We will see the legendary Pantaneiros live side by side with a spectacular fauna, varied and untamed. All this in a space of waterlogged land that is independent from the Amazon, but heir to its strength and virtues. Don't forget, we'll be waiting for you in the Pantanal, here on your series, Amazonia, The Last Call.